Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Diversity and inclusion is a major topic for a lot of companies, a lot of businesses, and in general today. How do you navigate those waters so that everything is fair for everyone? We're going to learn from somebody who can give you advice on that and some guidance. She's an emotional intelligence and leadership coach, and she's back with us. Nadine Zeinoun is on the program with us. Nadine, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Steve?
Very well, very well. And this is something that definitely deserves to be talked about because diversity it can be the baseline for a lot of companies. And if they don't adhere to it, the microscope can come out and they can deal with some challenges because of that. What are your first thoughts as we, out of the gate here, talking about diversity in the workplace?
So what you just said is very important because you see, now we're in a global world. So we're no longer like just functioning in one country. So people in one organization, they can be from different places in the world, especially with remote working. So all of this is imposing a lot of diversity. So one organization can have people from Europe, from Middle East, from Asia, East Asia, from America, everywhere, all over the globe. So if we're not very understanding to the tricky things about how our brain deals with diversity, we can end up creating problems in our teams and in our organizations. And what I mean by that is it's important to know that our brain, the way it functions under diversity, is not, in the most efficient way that we would want it to be. So what I mean is, like in our brain, there's a center called the amygdala, okay? And this is part of the limbic brain, which is the part that processes emotions. So in that area is continuously scanning our environment for threats. So every second, it's scanning at least 5 times. It scans our environment and looks for threats or possible threats. And of course, it's there to protect us from evolution. In evolution, that's how we survived, because the amygdala protected us from real life-threatening situations. However, when we see people who are different from us, and whether it's a difference in race, difference in religion, difference in the way they speak, difference in the decision-making process, all of this, diversity, this will make our amygdala sense a threat. So it takes this situation as a threat. And this is automatic response. Okay, so I'm not aware of this. This is in my unconscious, I'm not aware of it. So it just happens. So when my amygdala senses threat, what it does is it throws cortisol into my system. So it makes the body produce cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And when I'm under the impact of cortisol, I turn into a defensive mode. So why? Because I want to survive, because I feel that I'm threatened. So I want to survive. So I start protecting myself. Kind of like I create a barrier between me and whatever the situation is, so that I can protect myself.
This is very clear. And these things I've heard in the last couple of years as I've looked deeper into them. Am I on point here when I say it's our subconscious? Mm-hmm. It is programmed to protect us. Mm-hmm. It always wants to look for things that are familiar. Mm-hmm. That's why we have a fear of change, because it's unfamiliar. So when you see somebody from a different ethnic group and you're not familiar with them, you might know of the group, but now they're in front of you. It sounds like our brain, that section of our brain, immediately goes into just a protection mode. You don't even know you're doing it. You don't want to do it necessarily. It's just a primal thing, fight or flight, or I think they also call it the reptilian brain.
Absolutely.
Where it's just there to protect. So you feel threatened.
Absolutely. It's the reptilian brain because it's the oldest of our brains. So it does allow us to protect ourselves, as you were saying. Yes, so when something is not familiar, this is the automatic response that I get. And the problem is that this automatic response, it not only puts me, in a protective mode, like, like defensive, or I'm going to protect myself against an attack or anything. No, it allows me to see things as if they are attacking me. So I can misread what's happening. Okay, it allows me to start making wrong assumptions about the situation. So, for example, if I say something, Steve, and you don't respond, okay? So, or it takes you some time to respond. So, okay, my amygdala will say, oh, that took some time. What's going on? Oh, he didn't like what you were saying. Oh, he thinks that you're not too smart. Whatever. I start making all these negative assumptions about the situation. And the problem is I believe them. I believe them because I cannot, my brain can't tell the difference between reality and my imagination. So this movie that I just started making becomes the real thing for me. And I respond from that movie, from how I see this movie, based on how I interpret this movie. And of course, when I'm seeing a threatening movie, I'm going to respond, in a defensive way or in an offensive way.
Oh, you're going to be on guard. Think about, some people can't watch horror movies or scary movies. And if you can, maybe when you were a kid, you would see it and you'd be like, oh no. It sounds just like that is what's going on. Or you make excuses, like you may see somebody, you feel threatened, you internally, it's not maybe not outwardly, but you might look at somebody who's from a different ethnic background and maybe say to yourself, look at they're wearing, look at that. It turns into a negative because subconsciously you're singling them out to protect yourself. So you're making up excuses. Well, that look what they're wearing. They can't, they're not one of me. And they can be the nicest person on the planet, even nicer than your brother or sister, whatever it might be. But you've already singled them out. So everything, and thank you for all of this. Wow. It's a mind blow. I've learned more about how the subconscious works, but never thought it did that in terms of diversity. And it's right, but it's wrong, but it's right in that, we don't know we're doing it. It's evolution trying to protect us. Final thought on that. We could go back, 1,000 years, hundreds of years. And back then, there were battles between two different groups. So automatically, if you saw somebody else that wasn't part of your tribe, call it that, what do? Now you're on the defensive. You're ready to fight for your right and your family and everything like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
So, that does in itself, because it's automatic and it's the subconscious mind, which governs about 90-something% of our day without us giving permission to. It just does. How do you deal with that in the workplace now?
Now, first of all, you need to be aware of it. Like everything we talked about awareness a lot.
Sure.
But because awareness is like the essence, you need to be aware that, you're not being fair. Because, when this hits you and your cortisol is high, you're going to behave in a very inappropriate way. For example, if he's or she's a teammate, okay, if they're a teammate, you're going to start to pretend they're not there. You're going to start to minimize the amount of information you give them. So you're not very transparent and open with them. You'll hide some information. You're going to try to exclude them from certain activities or maybe a project or whatever. So all of this, you have to remember that it's going to trigger their amygdala, because when they feel excluded, their amygdala is going to feel threatened, and this is going to increase their cortisol, and that's where cortisol. That's not going to be a good outcome. So first of all, you need to notice how you will impact people when you are in this mode, and you need to notice that you're in this mode. You need to notice that you're not excluding them because there's a real, true reason. Because as you said, Steve, the thing is that we start making up excuses for our behavior so that, we remain okay, and we remain okay with ourselves. So no, I'm not doing that because I can't accept diversity. I'm doing that because, how you see how he looked at me, he really meant this, or you see how she, was behaving, etc. So I try to convince myself and give myself all these excuses about my behavior so that I don't feel weird. I need to surpass that. I need to be aware of that. I need to be aware that, oh my God, I'm giving myself excuses. This is not it. The real deal is I'm not really treating this person with equity, or, in an inclusive manner. I'm actually allowing the diversity to impact my behavior. And when you become aware and you start noticing how this is impacting you physiologically and behaviorally, and then you can start making a change. But the first step is become aware.
I can also view this where you may not be singling the person out. You're given, they have, same opportunities. And the person we're talking about is somebody from a different background, right? But you may be acting differently to them. Like maybe guarded, reserved, not as friendly, whereby, there's somebody over there that looks like that, same background as you. And hey, how are you? Everything's great. How's it going? You're acting differently to these two different groups.
Yeah.
Which right away, how does that feel to the other person?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really, it's very demeaning.
Yeah. Yeah. Just even not even giving the same kind of warm smile. And I believe people pick up on stuff like that after a period of time. So this is so impactful. I never even thought, in learning about the subconscious mind, that it had a hand in diversity in the way people are treating other people. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, absolutely. And it's very important these days because, as we said, with globalization,
Sure.
we're bombarded with diversity every single day. And it's important for us to be aware of how our instinctual, our instinctive, way of behaving is so that we can override it.
So awareness is the beginning of change.
Yes.
So if we're all aware of what's going on, and again, I want to say it's not really our fault because it's the way we evolved. Where do you go from there, from this point, to make sure that everybody is treated fairly?
So after the awareness, you need to own your responsibility and know that you can change this and you can override this. So you need to take on the responsibility of making that change and really commit to it because it's not an easy process. So the first thing I would say, you need to connect with that person. And connect with that person, I mean, really, really get to know them personally, not just on a work level. So get to know them personally, hear their stories, and really not judge them, really listen to them and empathically, so that they feel listened to, they feel cared for. And at the same time, when you start hearing their story, you start connecting with the human part of them. So your human part starts connecting with their human part. And then you will start finding a lot of similarities. So you're overriding the dissimilarities that the brain was seeing, and you're creating similarities now. So then you will start to see that, oh, they have problems, let's say with their kids, the same way I have problems with my kids, or, they have things in their personal life that, I've been through. And this similarity will start to make you change the way you are perceiving this situation from a threat to rather something that is nice. And in this case, you have more oxytocin in your body because the oxytocin is increased, and that's a bonding hormone. So it will enhance the bond between you and that person. And once, oxytocin is high, it allows you to access a different part of your brain, which is the part here, which we call the prefrontal cortex. So it's one of the most recent parts of our brain. And the prefrontal cortex allows us to, when it's activated, it allows us to be empathetic with people and to really connect with their feelings and their emotions. So that's where you start overriding that automatic response and start creating an intentional response, which is more human.
Should you, with the awareness level, say to yourself, something I just don't like about them, and look back at yourself and say, there's nothing wrong with them, it's just me, and then go a little above and beyond to overcome your own situation? For example, talking about their lives, going up to them, hey, you want to go grab lunch, or whatever it might be, to just overextend because there's something within you. Maybe you can't put your finger on it because again, it's subconscious, But there's nothing wrong with him. It's just you saying, I don't know, something I don't like about him, which is so
Yeah,
wrong.
I love that question. I love that question. Yeah, absolutely. Because the first thing you need to notice is that something changed in you when you were interacting with this person. So you need to notice those emotions, because the first thing is the cortisol is gonna create is some fear or some, weird, unpleasant feeling. Okay. And you're gonna feel it in your body, maybe in your stomach, maybe
Hmm.
in your chest, wherever it is. You're gonna feel something that's different, and your energy is gonna change. So you need to notice that. That's where the emotional self-awareness comes in. So you need
Yeah.
to notice that. And then, as you said, you need to be curious. Why am I behaving in this way? Because, as we said, the first thing that's going to happen is your brain is going to give you excuses. Oh, because she did this. Oh, because he did that. Oh, because this is how they, act with you, whatever. It's going to give you false excuses. So you need to override that and say, no, 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 no. What's really going on? What am I really feeling? And why am I feeling that? And sometimes it's because they remind you of someone, in the past you had a conflict with, or some, you were disappointed with, or
I
had
think
some
that's different,
disagreement.
though. I think that's different if they
Hmm.
remind you of somebody else that you had a true situation with, because
Hmm.
they could be, they could look exactly like you, and there
Yeah,
could be something there. And of course, our subconscious likes to go back to the familiar things. So there's a situation, it's trying to protect you. And I remember the time that, there was a guy with
exactly.
blonde hair and blue
Exactly.
eyes. You got to watch out for that dude over there. And right away, your brain is saying that. But do you think it's also, Nadine, when somebody is working with or encounters somebody from a different ethnic group, that they feel like an outsider? So maybe not so much a threat, but they feel like they're outside of what this person is and they can't relate to it. Maybe it's, maybe a threat kind of feeling,
Yeah.
but it's almost, somebody has an accent, or, wears
Yeah.
different clothes or whatever it is. You feel that I can't relate to that because that's not me. Whereby if you just started talking to them, got to know them, you would learn so much. Like, I never tried that kind of food. Whoa, thank you. I
Yeah.
never knew that
Yeah.
restaurant existed. Oh, and that's, your mom makes that, things like that. Do you think
Yeah,
that's also part
absolutely.
of it?
Of course, because, as you said, Steve, when I feel like I'm not part of this, so I'm excluded. In other words, my brain is feeling excluded. And as a human, I am looking for inclusion. I want to feel included. I want to feel like I'm part of the tribe.
Hmm.
So when I feel excluded, that's a threat. Okay, that's a threat.
Okay. Yeah.
So a threat is not just something that is going to kill me. A threat is something that's going to hurt my ego. A threat is something that's going to make me feel disrespected. A threat is something that's going to make me feel excluded. A threat is anything that is going to make me feel like um, I'm not comfortable with this particular situation. Something in me, my status has been touched, whatever, all of these things that I just mentioned and others. So when any of these come into play, my reaction is going to be the same. I'm going to react to the situation as if the situation is, a ferocious lion coming at me and wants to eat me. I'm going to react in the same way. So that's why being aware is number one. It's key. Being aware that, as you said, understand what's going on. Why am I reacting like this? So what's wrong? What did this person do or say that made me feel so offended? And then you might discover that it's certain beliefs that you have about this ethnic group or this country or this religion or whatever that comes from your past, from people in your past, etc. And that's what's making you feel uncomfortable, in this interaction. Again, as you said, it's very important to override that. Notice that, oh
Mm.
my God, there's no sense to this. I'm just being
Yes.
biased. This
Yeah.
is my brain being biased. And just go and start that conversation, connect with that person on a human level. And you're going to find a lot of similarities. And once you do, you start focusing on those similarities, and it will change the whole way you're going to interact with this person.
I never thought we'd be talking about this today in terms of the direction it's gone in, because we're really putting that microscope on the subconscious and what is happening. And I just got a flash. It could be something even from your parents. Maybe your parents used to
Yeah,
say something about a certain type of, people, group, whatever.
absolutely.
You might even forgot about it, but it could
Yeah.
be it could have been programmed in your mind when you were, 7 years old. Dad said, "Bye, look at that, man."
Yeah,
And now
yeah, absolutely.
you've carried it with you, and you don't know why when you look at maybe that group or hear a last name, make a connection, that you get, I guess it's triggered. You get triggered in a way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's no excuse for it. There is, I guess you can call it an excuse because it comes from your past, but we need to, like you say, we need to override it,
Yeah, you need to
overcome
take
this.
responsibility, because if I always say, this is how I'm wired, I won't change, then I'm not owning the responsibility. I'm not really saying that I can make a change, or I can, uh, turn myself around and turn my behavior around, which I can do when I have the proper awareness.
What about in a work environment
Hmm.
where you as a leader see that somebody's not being treated fairly by coworkers, or maybe it's one particular one that's creating a riff for this person who may be a little different than the others?
Hmm.
What's the course of action there?
I think it's very important for the leader, once they notice that, to call that person who is really treating others in an unfair way, or a specific person in an unfair way, and to have a very open talk with them. So sometimes people are not aware. A leader's job is to bring awareness to their team members. That's part of, a leader is developing their people. And how do they develop them? The first thing, they need to create that awareness, that, and they need to do it in a very sensible way, and in a way that's respectful to those, so that their amygdala is not triggered as well.
Right.
So in a safe environment, in a safe way. But they do need to call on those behaviors so that they bring awareness to that person. Maybe initially that person will reject it, okay, which is normal, like the first reaction. But with more talks, and with the leader making them feel that they're not doing this to pinpoint something negative in them or anything, but they're just doing it because they care about their growth, and they also care about the impact it's doing on the other team member. So once they start doing it in a safe way, that person will start hearing them and listening to them. But it also depends on the person, of course, themselves, and how mature they are and how open they are to feedback they receive.
I find it interesting that we're talking about diversity, and even if we factored out that we're connected, we're talking, our umbrella here is the workplace and helping entrepreneurs, CEOs, people running corporations, whatever. It's We should be doing this anyway. We should be, just on a personal level, realizing it, being aware, rewiring ourselves, being more, I guess it's open-minded, because right away when you have that thought of somebody, your mind closes. You're not
Yeah,
accepting anything. They're blocked
yeah,
out. That's it. I'm
yeah,
not going near them. That's it.
absolutely,
No, go the other way. Go
absolutely.
extend a hand.
Yeah,
There's no reason
yeah.
not to,
I love how you said open-mindedness. Yeah, that's the first thing. Open your mind. Allow yourself to approach things with an open mind. And we say that a lot in coaching. To be a good coach, you need to have this open mind where you accept things as they happen with no judgment. And this is something very difficult to do, because we're wired to judge,
right,
to
right.
protect ourselves. So it's very difficult to step out and decide that, I'm not going to judge the situation. Mindfulness meditation helps a lot. Mindfulness practices help a lot in this, because it allows you to, notice that moment and what's going on with no judgment. So that could be something that people can use to
Sure.
create that awareness.
And once you have that mindfulness, you can stop, think, and process what's
Yeah,
actually going on. Taking a
yeah,
moment. Why did I think that? Why am I feeling that way? Is it justified? They're no threat. They're no outsider. So what? They're wearing different clothes. Their skin is a different color. So what? Um,
yeah.
it's A lot of people go through hypnotherapy to rewire, or even sometimes
Hmm.
reparent, because it's something that happened in your childhood,
Hmm.
your subconscious. But I truly believe, now that we've uncovered this, that it's something that you can easily overcome.
Hmm.
It's just be nice, and realize why you had that block.
Yeah,
When somebody's first introduced to your company or whatever, and they're different, and you're right away thinking to yourself, I don't know about them. Stop. Just
yeah, yeah,
don't think that. Just
absolutely.
I do this. Yeah, I look at it this way. You're driving in traffic. I used to, somebody cuts me off, I'd be like, what are you doing? And now I look at it, and for a split second, I might go, oh, all right. No big deal.
Yeah.
There was no car crash. Nothing happened. They may be going through a tough time. Who knows if they just got a bad phone call? Who knows if they were up all night because they're working 5 jobs? What's it going to do to get angry? And the same thing if somebody's from a different ethnic background, what's it going to do to single them out? Not being productive. If it's in the workplace, you got to work with them anyway. Why? Just take a look at ourselves. Yeah, the mindfulness meditation. There's people that practice that, practitioners, but you find it on YouTube. People.
Yeah, exactly. You can. It's very easy to, practice that, but again, it's a decision that you have to take. You need to take on that responsibility. And while you were talking something, I remembered something that also, a reason this is important for leaders is even when you're hiring people, because leaders are going to be involved in the hiring process, and the others, like the hiring, like the HR or whatever, whoever is involved in the hiring process.
Sure.
They really need to be aware of this, and they really need to pay attention, or else they would be hiring people like them. And the team that is, from one style doesn't survive, because for a team to be really effective and really efficient and productive and successful, you need variety. So the diversity is very important. You remember how we talked last time about the strengths. So you need diverse strengths in a team for a team to thrive. And our biases during hiring, they limit us to hire people who are different from us. So we need to be very careful when we're approaching it from that point.
And not to say that you're just going to hire somebody because they're from a different background. No, they need to have skills, the qualification.
Absolutely.
They have to get the mindset or the values of the company, all of that,
Absolutely.
I think comes at close your eyes. don't even look at them. Don't even look at their name, nothing like that. Take them for what they are, a person that has skills, that wants to contribute, that wants to do well. And you'll have a great team member.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nadine, great talking with you today. If somebody wants to work with you, learn some more about this and everything else that you offer, what's your website?
www.nadinezeinoun, NadineZeinoun.com. And there's a place there where they can book in a call, a free call, of course. And, I'd love to support them.
Fantastic talking with you. And I'm just going to say that I truly believe that people that wear blue during podcasts are far superior than others. No, wait a minute. That was a coincidence today, by the way. Nadine, fantastic having you on. I appreciate you and look forward next time we talk.
Thank you, Steve. Have a wonderful week.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.